we'll call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Today is Wednesday, April 30th. This is our regular meeting with Hutchinson Utilities Commission. Agenda item number 1 is to declare any conflicts of interest by any of the commissioners today.
None.
None? All right, we'll move on to item 2 is to approve the consent agenda, approve the minutes, and ratify the payment of bills.
I motion to approve minutes, ratify the bills.
I'll second.
Motion by Tom, second by Kathy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion's approved. Item number 3 is to approve the financial statements.
I don't have a ton, just mention a couple of the notes that I put on there. The electric had a rata testing done on the engines, so you'll see the operating expenses were a little higher, $43,000 for that company. Plus then the fuels were up because we had to run the engines. Otherwise, the electric was pretty similar. On the gas side, you'll notice a big decrease, but that's because we received $752,000 a year ago from Heartland Corn on the reimbursement of the interconnect station. Otherwise, usage was pretty similar, but revenues were down, but that's because we gave about $90,000 back to the customers on the fuel credit adjustment. There was none last year at this time. That's all I have.
Yeah, just to kind of parlay, obviously, if you take out that non-operating revenue, that reimbursement from Heartland Corn, we're actually ahead of pace through the first quarter of this year relative to last year. Obviously, a lot of it has to do with the consumption is back on the natural gas side. It's just about under 16% up from last year. We had a couple, again, I think we've talked about a couple cold stretches in January and February this last year that we didn't have the previous year. So we've outpaced last year's through at least through the first quarter. We'll see how the rest of the year goes on the gas division side. And then the electric side is just up a hair as well in some areas. Again, on the all electric, that's the biggest increase because, again, it was colder in the wintertime and those all electric customers use electric heat. So, so they have a disproportionately increase when it's cold out on the electric usage side. Otherwise, every class is trending either at or fairly above. The industrial class is down a little bit, but that's just timing in the meter reads. We do manual reads on the electric side, so we may be off a day or two each month, and so that volume, if we're within that range from month to month, that usually tells me they're fairly consistent on the usage patterns, because that's about what that class uses typically in a day. And those large customers. Otherwise, things look pretty good. As Jared mentioned, the credits, we are, again, outpacing last year, the first quarter on the amount of credits we've given back to the customers. We're up about $204,000 in additional credits back to the customers because of our gas supply contracts. So we're looking well there, and that value gets passed back to the customers, which is a good thing. And then just noting cash balance is up for the month. There's a lag on cash coming in, but we're up, I think it was about $938,000 in cash balance. So we're just under $24 million in cash through the first quarter of this year. So things are trending as we expected. So we'll see how the next quarter goes as far as weather and usage, but everything seems to be trending as normal. So looking pretty good through the first quarter. Any questions on anything particular that you guys saw?
No, I think everything was answered. Okay. All motion to pass or approve, excuse me.
I'll second.
Motion by Tom, second by Kathy to approve the financial statements. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's approved. Agenda item 4 is open forum. I don't have any new guests today. Agenda item 5 is communication. City Administrator Matt is not here today, so we'll move into divisions with Dan.
The Hutchinson project is going to be, construction will start next week. Most of the summer will be all the civil work, dirt work, drainage, stuff like that. So finally get some dirt moving up there, so it'll be nice to see. So we've been doing a lot of prep for that and pre-construction meetings, things like that. So that kicks off next week. The Wilmer line, I've mentioned a few times, we talked about rebuilding that 69 kV line that heads west through town and north, our segment anyway, with Great River Energy. That's still rolling along. They are planning some open houses for the public to attend, a couple in Litchfield, a couple in Hutchinson, same, 2 different days. Because it goes through a lot of the rural area too. So that'll probably be scheduled for sometime in June, and I'll let you guys know or keep you guys up to date. But so things are moving there. They'll get that done, and then so they can start with their line permitting, because there's going to be some route changes along the way, and of course it's going from 69 kV to 115 kV. So the commission will have to, the PUC will have to approve that and the route and certificate of need, things like that. So that's all I have on that part of it, but it's still moving along. Is that those early phases yet?
All right, thank you. Dave?
Nothing new.
Generator testing will be happening at Plant 1 starting just next week on units 5, 6, and 7. The stack testing that was done last month on Unit 5. Unit 5 did not pass stack testing. There seems to be, they do multiple runs during the stack test to get an average. There seems to be an issue with the first run on Unit 5 that kind of skewed the average. We currently have a hold on running Unit 5 until we get our letter back from the MPCA to let us know what they want us to do. We open up the SCR and inspected, everything looks good on everything on our end. The only thing that we would do different on our next run, we would just run the unit longer to get the SCR warmer, so it could work better. Everything looks and function as it should on our end, so we're not sure if there was something with the testing equipment or something, not sure. But we do have a retest scheduled with Alliance for June 13th currently, and we did ask them if something were to open sooner to get us moved up faster. So right now we're just kind of on a holding pattern, excuse me, with Unit 5 until we hear back from the MPCA on if we can use the unit or not, just so we don't get ourselves in a situation. So other than that, the Units 6, Unit 7, and Unit 1 all look okay. So.
Nothing new for me.
You, human resources. Angie?
Just finishing up with the natural gas position. We have a new hire starting next week. So got all that paperwork back, and at our next meeting, he will be joining us.
Great.
So that's been pretty much all of my time. Not really, but some other small projects, but
Yeah, it's exciting.
yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Legal. Mark?
Nothing today.
Anything today? Back to you, Jeremy.
Just sent out you guys a couple updates. I did send you a business update a little over a week ago, and then I also sent you a legislative update, I think the last day or two. So if you haven't had a chance to kind of look through those things, make sure you read through those things and let me know if you guys have questions on any particular things going on. Try to highlighting some of the main things I've been working on, but we're really into a lot of draft contract languages for a lot of different areas. We're still working through a draft contract on an energy contract with a prospective customer looking to come into town, and that process has been moving through the city's planning and zoning process and through the city council. So we're still working on the draft language between staff, Mark, and then our utility attorney as well as been crafting stuff. So that'll keep moving forward over the next month or two on that. I have started preliminarily drafting some contract language for the New Ulm contract. If you recall, their contract expires in March of 2026 for the third that they pay on our pipeline. They are going to be reducing their volume since they no longer have Heartland Corn underneath them. So I'm starting to put together some draft documents to work with New Ulm on. Part of the reason that came up is they're going to be starting their planning process here and budgeting process for 2026 here by this summer, and they're going to want to have an idea what the financial impact will be with the new contract and the new types of volumes. And so I sent you some information to just be thinking about some different structures, some different phasing structures. I'll get you guys more information about kind of where that rate of return is right now and relative to our current customers, and get your guys' thought as we move along, just anticipating some of that conversation happening. Working through a tolling agreement, so we're kind of going back and forth with some different counter proposals on that. That something may come forward in May for that. And then the biggest one I'm working on now is the prepaid deal, natural gas prepaid deal. Those documents have finally been submitted out to all the participants or the off-takers of the natural gas. So us, the city of Owatonna, the city of New Ulm, the city of Austin. The ethanol plant is gonna have load in that prepaid deal, but that needs to come through Hutchinson as a municipal utility in order to be a part of the tax exempt financing needed to create the discount. So we're working through a gas supply contract, and then there's also a NASB agreement that needs to be put into place. So I'm starting to pass some information to Mark, and we'll have our attorneys kind of working through that on our end too. But that one, we're starting to set the stage to go through those agreements, get those things ready to go, so that if the markets are conducive to issue the bonds sometime later this summer, fall, everything's ready to go to issue the bonds. Obviously, with the tariffs and things that have happened, there's been some fluctuation in the bond markets and obviously the stock market. So right now wouldn't be an ideal time to get the max discount on gas. But we want to get all the documents kind of finalized and ready to go so that when the market strikes, we'll have that in place. So I anticipate going back and forth through these documents over the next probably 3 to 4 weeks. I would anticipate getting them to a point where they would come in front of the board sometime probably either May or June's meeting, and that we're ready to go by that. So we haven't established a minimum discount yet on that, and we haven't established some of the other intricacies of that structure, but we're working through those things now. So I'll keep you guys informed as that piece kind of moves on. And then the other piece I would just mention, just to reiterate, we're in a current prepaid deal right now with Peak for about 60% of our load. But if we recall, once this MCE deal would ever take shape, we would move a portion of what's in the Peak deal into a longer term deal, and that creates about 20% of our load. So we would be moving a portion of ours, and then Heartland Corner would be part of our load under this deal as well, where they would get a discount and we would get a discount on those volumes too. So I'll keep you informed as we kind of move forward, but just letting you know those agreements are starting to come out, and I think the one gas agreement's 100 pages, so I've just started working through that one. But so there'll be some different structures on this one than there was in the Peak deal, so we'll be working through that. So that's kind of what's going on, in addition to just the legislative stuff, keeping on track of that. But right now, they're getting to the end here, and a lot of that stuff's just being rolled up into omnibus bills. They're not really pulling a lot of individual bills out separately to go to committee, so I anticipate that really happening, where they're just getting kind of tight on timelines. They're still looking to put a bonding bill in place as well, so they're going to be focusing on some of that too in some of these conference committees. So, but if anything really materializes or something really changes on the energy sector of things, I'll let you know. But really, right now, most of the language that's being proposed has been pretty well established by MMUA and been supported by the bill authors, and so I don't see a lot of significant concerns or issues that Hutchinson Utilities needs to be worried about relative to some of the energy topics. But that could quickly change too in 3 weeks, so if something comes up, I'll let you know. So that's kind of what's going on.
All right, thanks, Jeremy. Item 6 is policies. We have a couple to review, and we do have a couple to approve changes to.
Yep. So all the policies that are listed for change, it's just removing the word director from the policies, but along with the compensation plan, not only removing the word director, it's also just updating the ranges to match if there's any 0.01, anything over the 1.0 would fall into the next range for the performance score.
Sounds pretty straightforward. Anybody care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the policy changes.
I'll second.
Motion by Kathy, second by Tom to approve the changes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those changes are approved. Item 7, unfinished business. We have none. We'll move into new business. Item 8A is to review of 2024 annual benchmarking report. Looks like you, Dave.
Yeah, so each year we file our reliability numbers with APPA, and they benchmark us and compare us to other utilities throughout the United States. So over 350 utilities submit their information to APPA, and then we get compared to utilities in our region. So in our region is the Upper Midwest region. There was 120 utilities in our region that we compared to. So in the report, it kind of shows our numbers compared to them. We still fare better. Our numbers are still better than the average in our region, although they're up a little bit from last year. We did have a couple larger outages last year that kind of drew those numbers up a little bit. We had one outage, basically affected most of the town. We had a car hit a box and knocked out our plant, which was a pretty big outage for about 40 minutes, so that was a big one. But other than that, our numbers are still good. We received recognition for excellence and reliability. Again, we've had that for the last 10, 12 years with our reliability numbers, so things are still good. And we use this obviously to compare all of our feeders in our system, what things are failing, what's working, what's not. So it's a good report that we use to monitor our system.
Well, congratulations again.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been
it's
doing well, so thank
Good.
you.
Good work with the staff. Yeah, if you've ever lived out of town, it's much different, so we appreciate the hard work.
Well, they do a really good job in keeping things going. So.
Yep. All right. 8B is to review of the 2024 Safety Award of Excellence.
So this year, we apply each year for our safety. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I jump in?
No.
No, it's
Trying to get away so we
Oh.
can see where you guys sit.
It's kind of a bad spot.
Tom's moving up, Jeff.
So yeah, each year we do apply with the same thing through EPPA with our safety, and our safety incidence rates is basically our worker hours exposed, and then with our number of incidences that are reportable. This last year we had a really good year, and we received the top award, which is, they call it the Diamond Award for our safety. It's really a good testament to our safety program in a whole. MMUA runs our safety program, and from the top down, we take it pretty serious. Everybody really does a really good job with it, and I think this just gives us a little recognition that what we're doing is right. And I think this is something we should, we like to talk about. So.
Absolutely.
Good.
All right. Thanks so much. Item 8C is to approve requisition 010216, Renegade Professional Services. Jeremy.
So this is a quote for the 2025 services. If you recall, we started working with Renegade at the end of 2023. This is a consulting firm that helps and assists us in making sure that we're staying in compliance with predominantly our transmission facilities, but it does spur over into our distribution system. And so as part of their work that they've done with us, they're also keeping us in compliance with stuff on our transmission line, but also with Heartland Corn's transmission system now that they currently own and operate. So they provided this proposal back in December. I was hoping to have the gas manager on by then, so I've kind of been waiting to put this in place, although I have had conversations with Renegade about continually having their assistance, at least for 2025, particularly in some of the main areas, which is doing the class location assessment on our high consequent and moderate consequent areas. We have to do those on an annual basis. We have to monitor those high consequent and moderate consequent areas, making sure that we have class assessments and risk assessments done in those areas. If you recall, our high consequent area is right up here by Warrior Manufacturing, where our high pressure transmission line is, because there's enough population in that area that it deems it a high consequent area, and then we have a couple moderate consequent areas in town as well. So they're going to go through and perform the class location assessment again, making sure that if things have changed or whatever, that class location and that classification gets reclassified if needed. I don't anticipate that happening. I don't think that anything really material has changed between our HCA and MCA areas, so I don't anticipate anything changing, but we still have to go through the annual review process of that. And then if anything is substantially changed in those areas, we have to record and monitor those as part of our risk assessment, and we have risk assessment modeling factors that go into those areas. So they're going to help and assist us with that, and they've kind of been monitoring. We've kind of already been talking about those in our monthly meetings about that work starting and having that stuff done here by the end of 2025 and staying in compliance. And then the other piece is we have to, because we have a transmission line, we have to take imagery every year of our transmission line. So we get imagery, and then I also Bryce, he flies our transmission line. We do it once a year, but we're actually starting to think about doing it twice a year. And really the main reason for that is we're supposed to fly those pipelines and make sure that if vegetation is dead or they're seeing things overhead, that those things get documented and get addressed. Sometimes you can't, so there's certain areas where you can't just get there on foot. They make you go through those things. Last year we did use the satellite that came through. We were able to use imagery off the satellite that comes through our location once every 3 years, so we were able to get it at basically significantly little cost because that was just the service that was come through. However, now we're going to go 2 years where we're going to have to pay for that imagery. So that is part of this contract, or at least estimate, they're estimating somewhere between 25 and 31,000 for us to get that imagery for our 93-mile transmission line. So in the quote that I have for our portion, I'm factoring in the highest estimate of 31,000. That way, if it comes in cheaper, you've already approved a not to exceed limit. And if it's cheaper, it's cheaper, but we won't know until we go out and talk with some of the imaging firms that will do that imagery for us. But that will be an annual basis. We'll have that higher cost for the next 2 years, and then hopefully when the satellite comes around in year 3, we'll be able to continue to take advantage of that imagery. If we can take advantage of some McLeod County imagery that's going on, they're doing some GIS updating. I talked to Tom a little bit, and we can parcel some of that McLeod County segment in with some imagery, and we can save some costs. We'll look to do that, but we've got, I think, 5 or 6 counties we go through with our transmission line, and that whole thing will be needed to be done. So, and then Heartland Corn, they've got that 7-mile transmission, so they're in just one county, and it won't be as exhaustive, but they will have those components that they'll need to be taken care of as well. Did confirm, even though we got the quote back in December, the pricing is good. A lot of times, we're well past 30 or 60 days where sometimes the pricing changes. We talked to them last month, and they said, no, those are concrete prices. So what's in front of you today is approving that requisition for our portion of it, and then Heartland Corn's portion of it, and then we'll get reimbursed. You will either get reimbursed from Heartland Corn, or we'll have them bill Heartland Corn directly for their portion. And I have talked with Tom down at Heartland Corn, and he's well aware of the costs and is fine with those things, saying keeping them in compliance. So.
All right, sounds good. Any other questions?
No. Motion to approve?
I'll second.
Motion by Tom, second by Kathy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 8C is approved. Item 8D is the approval of the City of Fairfax Natural Gas Facilities and Maintenance Agreement.
Thanks, Matt. So this is just the annual agreement that we have in place with the City of Fairfax. We do provide limited services for them, so if we need to do any maintenance on their interconnect station to their line that they have, we'll go down and we'll perform the work, and we'll bill them on the materials cost plus 15% and then our labor time. So we have this agreement in place every year. It comes in front of us on an annual basis. So the only things I've changed in the agreement from the 2024's agreement is I just changed the dates to reflect the new 1-year term. And then I also did in Exhibit C, the old agreement had material cost plus 10%, and I did tell them we're moving that material cost up to 15 to be consistent with all the other agreements that we have in place with customers, and they were fine with that. So I was hoping to have it in the April's meeting because we're a little bit outside of the date range, but they couldn't get it in front of their city council until the middle of April. So, but it is signed by them, and they approved it. And so, anyway, sometimes we can, we'll make 5,000, we'll bill them 5,000, sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 22. It just depends on what work is needed down there on their system. So it will kind of ebb and flow. So I'm estimating on an average, that's a $5,000 to $10,000 contract for labor and materials and things like that. So.
Motion to approve?
And I'll second.
Motion by Tom, second by Kathy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 8D is approved. Item 8E is the approval of Highland Park Industrial Natural Gas Transportation and Commodities Agreement. Jeremy.
So this is another one that you guys, most of you are familiar with. It's an annual contract we have, just like with the city, with like 3M as well. So it's just updating it for the next year. It starts May 1st. The only things I changed in this are the dates, updated the dates, and then I did change the meter rate from $311 to $429, which goes along with our rate adjustments that the commission has put in place. So just asking you to approve another year worth of commodities and transportation agreement for Highland Park.
I'll make a motion to approve.
A second?
Motion by Kathy and second by Tom. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 8E is approved. Item 8G, or excuse me, 8F is to approve requisition 010227, the School Road Bridge Project.
So looking to have the commission approve this requisition. I've been keeping you updated kind of where this project has been going. We did receive the final exhibits and diagrams from SEH. Justin Black is the consulting engineer that's been working with us to create the final exhibit documents. It shows the depth of the boring that would go below the river and where it's going to come out and kind of the diagram. So he's provided that to us, and so we're now going to be in the stages of filling out the permit, the DNR permit application, attaching those exhibits and answering the questions. And he's certainly around if we need him to help that, but we've got Brandon and Tim internally are going to start that permitting process. So that would probably be the biggest, probably lag, depending on when the timeline of this project really happens, is how quickly can we, we'll get the permit application, but how long will it take for them to review that, and if there's any modifications or things that need to happen before they approve that, would be the biggest timeline. I'm anticipating a couple of months probably for them to approve that, but we're going to put things in there that really speak to the safety and things that would hopefully speed up the permitting review process on that. But I'm anticipating sometime this fall when that project would happen. So
Is that permitting process a little is it difficult to get through?
no, I don't think it's not difficult. It's just the timing and the review process, depending on how many applications are in front of us, and they only have so many people at their sites that
Right.
work on the review process of permitting river bottoms and river basins. So that would be the piece. It wouldn't be that it's a complex project. We've got boring that go across our river in a lot of different areas, so it'd just be staffing time to have the ability to review that stuff in its entirety. Of course, if we're missing some components or pieces that needed to be a part of the application submittal, that would slow some things down. But we'll review that stuff, make sure we have all the information that's required based on the requirements of the application, and then we'll send it to them. And they know what's coming. We've had staff has been in contact with the local DNR office that works on the permitting for the river, so they know that we're going to be submitting something, so they're not going to be surprised by that stuff. And we've been in contact with them, so that piece will start. But one of the pieces that we wanted to kind of move in conjunction with that is to order the materials and have that stuff ready to go, because there's going to be a lead time on some of that stuff as well, so that we hopefully have the materials ready to go when the permit gets approved. And then we still have to go through and get a boring contractor to bore that, because of the size of the piping. We don't have the boring equipment to bore that, so we'll have to get that piece moving forward. But at least for right now, if I could have the commission approve ordering the materials from Northern Border, we can at least get that process rolling. So that's what's in front of you today, is requisition for Northern Border for all the materials required to eventually do the rerouting of the natural gas distribution piping off the bridge.
I'll make a motion to approve requisition 010227.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Kathy and second by Tom. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 8F is approved. Item 8G is to approve requisition 010225, the Phase 3 tuck pointing and additional brick repair. Mike?
Yeah, so this is the third and final phase of the tuck pointing project down at Plant 1. So it's the east side of the plant, which is the span creep part of the building on the east side, in between the plant and the cooling tower is that concrete portion of the building. The original Phase 3 of the project was part of the CapEx of 2025. The additional brickwork is back where Units 3 and 4 stacks were. We weren't sure what the condition of the brick was going to be until the stacks were removed. Some of you saw the condition of that area, and there's pictures attached. And it's in very poor condition. So we got quote back on getting that repaired, and then also adding the window back in that's been cinder block shut. So that portion was not part of the CapEx, so the CapEx will be adjusted accordingly to accommodate the additional scope of work to complete this final phase of the project. Any questions?
No, I think we saw it the other day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
He needs it.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Mike.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Tom and second by Kathy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Item 8G is approved. Item 8H is to set a special meeting for cash flow projection discussion.
So I was curious if you guys want to table this item. I know we don't have a full board here, so I'm a little reluctant to have you guys
Yeah.
three set a schedule that may not work for the other one, so.
Yeah, I think you sent an email too, so
I
I think
did.
we need to do better at getting back to Jeremy
Yep.
in a timely manner.
So I'd say if you could think about schedules for a couple things, we've got this cash flow. We should probably, want to try to hammer something out here in May so that I have a good indication from the board where we're comfortable at and where we want to go. And the other one that has come up is having a joint EDA city HUC meeting. So I know that Matt and I have talked about, coordinating that, having an agenda put forth for that so that we can put something in place. So take a look at your schedules over the next, I think Andy had mentioned 4 to 6 weeks. And
I
see
think I
what
sent you mine.
Okay, and see what will work for that. If we could, mornings work, that was one of the things that we talked about the ED meeting, from morning from like 7 to 9 would work. We could try to have some of those, have it in the morning, but it's really gonna depend on trying to coordinate multiple boards and
Yeah.
what works for your schedule.
I just wondered if there was a possibility to do it like after that meeting. I suppose it depends when that meeting would
Depends on
happen,
you guys.
but if it were to happen, it would be, we're already here, or whatever, we could do that the same day if that were to work for people's schedule. I suppose we should finalize that date first, maybe.
Yeah, I think if we could find a date that works for the cash flow modeling piece and we can get that joint meeting scheduled on the same day, kind of back to back, that would be ideal for you guys. It's gonna really depend on what the council has for availability. Matt's on, it's like if there's enough notice, they're pretty flexible. Mark, I don't know if they're usually pretty flexible about making schedule work right on their
Yeah.
end. The EDA board would maybe be a little bit more, either early morning, probably lunch. I don't know what some of those members' availability is.
Were they there last year, or was it just city council?
It was just, the last couple we've had has just been the city council, so, I know there's been discussion about adding the EDA in
Yeah.
there, so that just adds another level of board, so we just have to make sure we're trying to coordinate what works best for everyone. Ideally, like to get everyone there, but you may not be able to get everyone there either, so. I think as soon as you guys can give us your schedule for meetings, we can then coordinate. I can coordinate with Matt and the EDA to say, here's what works best for HUC board. Do any of these dates or times work for the EDA and the city council, and then we'll work on that. The other piece I would have you think about is if there is a particular topic or things you want to talk about or be able to glean from the other boards, please let me know that. Give me a call or shoot me an email so that Matt and I can, he's going to ask city council the same thing and Matt's going to ask the same thing on that piece too, and kind of coordinate something. Miles has also offered if there's economic development, things that the commission wants to know about, or the direction of where the EDA is going, or maybe some plans that are coming down the pike, he's more than willing to come to a meeting and talk about kind of what's going on with the EDA. So if that's something that you guys would have interest in, he's offered to do that. So I said I would mention that to the board here as well. And
I think that would be interesting to see what's in the works, I guess, for the future.
so I can try to set something up too outside of the joint meeting too. And it may be just good to hear from him once in a while as well too. So okay, so kind of look over the next month or so and schedules and dates that would work for you, and we'll try to keep coordinating something.
As long as it's a week out, I'm pretty open, I can schedule.
Yeah, my schedule's pretty open too, but.
Sounds good. I'll just follow up.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, then our last agenda item is 9, and that's to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Kathy, second by Tom, all in favor signify by
I
saying
didn't think
aye.
about it, okay?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.